Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video we are going to continue our look at painting the Satan Shard of the Void Dragon. In this video we are going to work on the head and a little bit of the wings as well. You can see we've already got the lightning, the heartstone, and the glow on the wings going on. We're going to get started with some flat black from scale 75. I'm going to use a generous amount of water in my bristles to thin the color down ever so slightly. And we are basically going to apply this in the void within the head surrounding that icon. And we're going to concentrate right now on the icon itself. And so basically we are just going to paint this into the interior. Now, the reason why we're going with this flat black is because when this stuff dries, it dries with a nice matte finish. Of course, if you don't have this particular color, you can simply use whatever black you have on hand and use whatever matte medium you have and apply it in that fashion, and it'll yield you similar results. So fear not. It's just what I happen to use. It was one color to achieve my desired result. And you can see here how with a matte black, it just basically stops all reflection within there and it gives you that nice empty cavity look. Ceramite white is next. We'll slap a little bit onto our palette. Use the dampness of the brush just to thin the color out ever so slightly. And then of course we are going to base coat the entirety of the icon. And I'm trying to be as careful as possible as I'm working my way around the detail. Also try not to hit other areas of the head or anything like that, and very carefully pick out the icon. Now I don't really show it here in this video, but I do work on the back side of the head, and so it is being done on both sides as well. It's the same treatment. I think you guys get it by this point here, but because it was thinned out, I do have to apply more than one coat, and so I do apply a second coat, get a nice strong bold color. I'm going to use fluorescent pink from Golden Colors, and with this I'm just simply going to layer this on, just the dampness of the brush just to thin the color out ever so slightly, and I'm going to apply 2 layers onto this area on both sides of this icon, and just very carefully, of course. Now you may or may not notice that there are some areas on the model that have been bumped with color just as we've been working our way around. Not a huge issue, we'll clean those up later on. May or may not be on camera, who knows, but I think you guys kind of understand by this point here. So after it's got 2 layers on it, you can see the color is nice and bold and strong, and it's fluorescent, so it is really bright. We're going to get things rolling with fluorescent pink and titanium white. Both of these are from Golden's High Flow paint line. The only reason I'm using the Golden colors is because they flow nicely, and they have this really great fluorescent pink. Initially, the mixture was going to be a 1-to-1, but it wasn't strong enough, so I decided a 2-to-1, 2 fluorescent to 1 white for our initial highlight. And with this, I'm trying to be very deliberate and laying the color in through the central core of the icon. Now, the icon itself, the way it's sculpted, it tapers out towards its outer edges, and it comes to a high point in its central areas, kind of like almost like how like a sword has like that central solid bit in the middle kind of thing as it tapers off out to its edges. It's kind of the same thing with this, and so really I'm trying to lay the color in towards that high point, which is going to make it fairly easy once we really get into some edging and such, as that will provide guide where we're going to lay color down. Next, we're going to come in with some more titanium white, and we are going to mix this into the remainder of what was left on the palette, giving us roughly a 1-to-1 mix ratio. Of course, once you really start, laying the color down, try not to get too hung up on mixed ratios and things of that nature. It's really just kind of mixing to eye, and painting is a very visual medium, and don't get hung up on the particulars, as it were. Just kind of use your intuition, as it were, and your gut and what looks right, because oftentimes those are the best metrics for success as far as painting something. Just because something was precisely mixed, it doesn't mean it's going to be the best possible mixture. As you can see, we're simply just catching the high points, and it's pretty straightforward where we're building up this glow, and I really want this to be really intense. And as I was working my way through, I did want this to be kind of the central focus of the model. So we're going to add more titanium white I'm going to throw a little bit of drop on my palette. I'm going to take the remainder of what was left of the previous mixture and mix that in. Now, roughly as a ratio, this is probably more like a 3, 4, or even a 5 to 1 of white to fluorescent pink, 5 white to 1 fluorescent. It is very, very minimal. But again, it's really just mixing to eye. And of course, once you really start getting into the habit of mixing, you know, these kinds of things, you kind of forget about the ratios, and it's just really just kind of mixing to where your desired end result is, and you kind of, you know, get a further understanding of where you want color to be as far as where you're going to place your next layers and such. With this highlight here, it's mainly concentrated through the main arms of the icon, and I'm not doing the full perimeter of the ring through the center or the little crescent shape, but I am building it up towards the core itself. So really it's kind of like these you know, little bright points where the arms reach out from the central ring, as it were. Titanium white is next. We're going to slap a little bit onto our palette, and just the dampness of the brush to thin it down. And of course, this is going to be a very, very minimal highlight here. And I'm just concentrating really just where the arms branch out, and of course that central spine. And I will actually draw a little bit further down in that central spine that comes down into the head. I will draw a little bit more white into those areas. Now, because I have the color just thinned out just a little bit, it does act as a little bit of a glaze, and so you can slowly build up to the effect. And of course, when you are treating the paint as a thin color, as a glaze, you are always finishing your brush stroke where you want the color to build up the brightest. Always remember that. So there you can see it's a lot brighter than what we did previously with the Heartstone or the lightning on the wings. Quinacridone red is next. I'm going to slap a little bit onto the palette. This is from Golden, and this is their transparency line. I'm going to add 2 drops of Liquitex Floyd. That's what's in that dropper bottle. I don't bother showing the bottle anymore because the bottle's all dungy looking and it's old. I've had it for like 10 years. I'm going to use a very generous amount of water, thin it down, and I'm just going to break this into a nice thin little glaze consistency. It's very, very thin, and because I really want this transition to be fairly subtle, and I'm going to paint the kind of textured detail inside the rings of the head on his headpiece there, that crown. I don't know, whatever that is. It's a crown. It's a doodad. I don't know. But we're going to paint that on all 3 facets, the front side, the inside edge, and as well as the back. But I don't really think I show the back, but you know, it's getting painted as well. It's just, you know, I think you guys get it, right? And of course the wings, I'm also treating, it's basically kind of like how this metal's kind of, you know, wrapped around the stone, and this stuff kind of on the box art is painted up like stone. And I was thinking about doing the stone like this, but I don't think I will. I'd rather this be separate, and I'm also staying with this color scheme because this stays fairly consistent with the rest of the Necrons in how I've painted them. Once that first layer was dry, you can see here I'm laying a second layer down, but I'm going about 3/4 of the way down, bringing the color up, and I want the color to build darker up to the high points of these details. So again, once it was dry, I've come in with that same mixture and then began laying another layer down. And again, we're just building it up. Now, because these are transparency, the color does show through, but the way these finish are slightly matte, so they do dull the metallic shine down. But I'm fine with that because, again, it gives me that difference in texture, and you know, it makes that metal look all the much more metal. And in fact, the way the pink or the fluorescent pink lightning is done, I'm also considering laying a matte on that so that it scatters the light and doesn't reflect so much light, and in fact should give me more of an intense glow if I lay a matte on top of it, because it'll reflect light every which way, as opposed to a gloss where I want the body to remain glossy. Here you can see I've just done a 3rd layer, and I've built up that color really intensely onto the high points. We're coming in with some phthaloblue green shade. This is Golden's transparency color. Initially, when I was doing these with the inks, if in the previous videos, you may recall, it was a Prussian blue, I believe, I was using. And that was Liquitex ink, but I was sticking with the Golden transparencies here because I just didn't really feel like mixing or coming in with the ink, because I really wasn't 100% sure if that was going to give me the same effect as this quinacridone red. This quinacridone red, really, it was closer to magenta. Initially, the bottle, it looks very red, but on the model here, it looks very magenta-like, and so this is closer to what I wanted. I've thinned it way down, and I'm just kind of laying it on haphazardly, but letting it fall within recesses and trying to be, you know, somewhat random with the way it finishes. And of course, because we have it thinned out like a glaze, where we finish our brush stroke, it'll deposit a heavier amount of the color, so you can use that to your advantage to leave like little dots of the color kind of around, or build up intensity here and there. But otherwise, and of course with this phthaloblue, I also added 2 drops of Flow-Aid as well, so that it flowed into the details and such. Cryptic Armor Shade is next. I'm going to use a generous amount of water to thin this down. I slapped a little bit onto my palette. I'm just breaking this color down just a little bit, and I'm going to begin glazing onto the crown portion of the head. Now, I want the color to build up deeper at the ends of each of these little spires that are on his head, and I'm laying a little bit of color down closer to where it builds towards his head, and it kind of looks like, you know, it kind of clasps onto his head. So I figured, well, I'll just keep that as being this darker tone and, you know, create a bit of separation on his head, because it's like a crown, right? I guess, I don't know, it's made up stuff. So once that's dry, with that same mixture, I come in and lay another layer down, and this time it's only about 3/4 of the way, and I build the color up more intensely towards the high point, trying to be very careful not to hit any of the other areas that I've already painted. So we are trying to be very, very deliberate. I've done all the sides on the crown bits, these little spire parts, I don't know what these are, and basically that's what I've done. And realistically, we're trying to build it up to a darker and darker tone. And in fact, I think at one point I also just go straight from the bottle and do just these endpoints. It's just because I want to really, really deepen up this color. And I also considered leaving a more of a matte finish. This way, this particular shade wash finishes, it finishes with a gloss, and it's nice and shiny, and it retains that metallic luster. And initially I was into that, and now upon seeing the finished effect, I was like, well, maybe I might hit it with a matte. I don't know. Again, who knows? But you can see there, we're just building that up. And next I'm going to come in with some Null Oil Gloss, and this is because I want to build that deepness even further. So I lay a little bit onto my palette. I don't really thin it out too much, and right at just really at the bend, I start this brush stroke and just, you know, lay this color down, allowing the color to build up towards the tip. And I really wanted to build it to a really dark point, and I did this twice, I do believe. I used the hair dryer real fast and dried it off, and I wasn't 100%, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna grab some Black Templar Citadel Contrast, and really just right out of the bottle, I just captured just the top point of the of these crowns, just to build it to a nice dark black. And it was when this dried, it was actually at this point that I realized that maybe I wanted to finish these points off with matte and actually kind of create that visual separation from the shininess to you know, just so that the body always feels the shiniest in his head and the glowing intensity. And, you know, but either way, I was mostly happy with that. Amethyst Alchemy is next from scale 75, and of course, if you don't have a nice light purple metallic, you can just simply take, you know, any of the purple colors and mix it into a bright metallic, and you know, you're off to the races, as it were. This is just a very simple edge highlight, and I'm also going to pick some of those little details that come into the that texture, and realistically, it's just a simple edge highlight, and then just catching just those high points on some of those little, I don't know, rock faces. I guess I don't know what this is. It's made up stuff, so I'm making it up. But you can see it's really, really straightforward. And of course, I don't really show it here in the video, but I do also do the backside as well. And the head is just simply catching that edge. I don't bother trying to catch the inside details where it cracks inwards. I don't bother catching those because it's just really, really small, and I'm most likely just going to end up, you know, bumping something, or, you know, getting too much paint down and everything like that. And, you know, I'm not really looking for that. I'm just looking to bring that edge back out and bring it really forward, especially under certain lighting conditions. You really see these metallic shine highlights. Moonstone Alchemy is next, and this is going to be the highlight for all the areas we did the Cryptic Armor Shade, because it's a nice, you know, amber like metallic color, and so I found that this is a really fun way. It's really kind of used as like a brass, And again, this is a very, very minimal highlight. I'm just building up towards the ends, and it's kind of like a non-metallic metal theory where, you know, you build that high point up and you got the low points, and, you know, you're building the color up towards the color gets deeper at the higher ends of the surface. It's kind of like that, but not really. It was just more of an aesthetics choice, really. It's not like I was going for any kind of particular effect. I was just looking for something that looked kind of cool. And really, that's really, you know, when you are painting your models, that's really all you should be looking for is, you know, what looks cool and what's going to look good. And don't get caught up in all these, you know, it's a zenithal highlight, it's a, you know, this highlight or that, you know, whatever. Just paint it to whatever looks cool to you. And there it is. That is the head and the wing details. I think this guy's coming along very nice. I think in the next video we may work on the little pixelating things going on in his body. I think that might be the next one we look at. Big thank you to all my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below and you'll be taken off to a magical website called Patreon, where there are varying tiers of support and you can help this channel grow and become better. Take care of those brushes and they will take care of you.